Hi folks! The Filipina P here. And a lot of you watching this video have never been to the Philippines yet, but you're thinking about it and comparing it to other countries in Southeast Asia that you might want to visit. Maybe you've already spent some time here and you're considering coming back and wondering what's changed since then. Well, my last video was all about how to prepare for the trip. But today, I'm going to tell you what to expect after you get here, how to find a place to stay, how to avoid getting ripped off, and how to survive the local food without spending your entire vacation on the toilet. Wait a sec, I forgot something. If you want to help a girl out, please just take a sec to hit the thumbs up and subscribe buttons and the little notification bell. And thanks, I really appreciate it. So today I'm going to give you a survival guide with things you can do to avoid any problems or surprises after you get here, so you can make your first impression of my country a happy one. And to you veteran expats who are watching, please add your recommendations as well, because your experiences and insights will definitely help all the newbies. And don't hold back. Let's give them the good, the bad, and the ugly. Okay, so one of the most frequent questions I get asked is about where to stay during your Philippines adventure. Are hotels better, or should you get an Airbnb, which often ends up being a lot cheaper? Well, I can definitely give you some helpful advice in this department because it's a much different situation than where you come from. If I were you, I'd definitely start out in a nice hotel, which is usually just like what you see on the booking site. You can check the reviews, see the pictures, and you probably won't be disappointed. It might cost you a little more per night, but it's worth it to stay in a decent place for the first few nights. On the other hand, renting an Airbnb in the Philippines is like buying a pig in a poke, and here's why. The pictures of the accommodations can be very deceiving. The place could be 30 minutes from the nearest sign of life or built in someone's backyard next to a chicken coop. Foreigners are always amazed by the creativity of Filipinos when it comes to the way we can stick a living space in the craziest of places, and our Airbnbs are no exception. If I were you, I'd book a hotel for at least 3 nights and then personally visit the Airbnb you were interested in. You can thank me later. If you're planning on traveling around a lot, it makes even more sense to just stay in a nice hotel. And if you don't need all the luxurious bells and whistles, you can find plenty of places that won't break the bank. Okay, so now you made it to the Philippines and you're all checked in at your hotel. You've unpacked your bags and stretched your legs, so now what? Well, some of you more experienced travelers feel perfectly comfortable just setting out on your own and figuring things out as you go. You're confident that you can resolve any issues that pop up, and you don't need or want any assistance. If you're here to meet someone, she might already be there with you. And if that's the case, you're gonna be locked down romantically for the duration of your trip, no matter what you think the deal is between you. She'll be planting her flag right in your hotel room. And unless you stop her in a taxi at gunpoint and send her on her way, she's gonna be stuck to you like glue. And she'll be running interference to keep any other women out of your head and out of your bed. Now, if you didn't come here to sample the smorgasbord of available women, and you're only here to be with her, then maybe that's fine with you. As long as she doesn't get on your nerves once you find out she's afraid of the dark and has to sleep with all the lights on or think it's hilarious to fart under the sheets. But assuming she passes muster instead of passing gas, you're gonna find out real quick that having a Filipino companion can make things a lot easier for you. When it comes to getting around town, finding good food, navigating the paperwork, setting up appointments for apartment rentals, negotiating prices, and just dealing with other locals. Most of us speak a little English, but there are still gonna be some issues. We have a different way of communicating, even if we're using English, and it can often be difficult and frustrating to get the information you need when talking to a local. For instance, don't ask directions from a Filipino. Even if we don't know the answer, we'll pretend that we do, because we don't want to lose face by looking foolish for not knowing something. So we could easily be sending you on a wild goose chase. Doesn't that sound messed up? That we'd rather send you in the wrong direction instead of just saying, I don't know? That's the kind of thing you guys need to be aware of, and it's exactly the kind of thing a local companion can save you from. We also use words like on, in, near, around, and at slightly differently than you do, which only adds to the confusion. And if English is your second language to begin with, forget about it. So having a Filipina as a travel companion can be very convenient, but what if you decided not to get involved with anybody yet? Maybe you didn't go online and get all tied down before you got here. Or maybe you just want the freedom to travel around and enjoy your vacation however you like. Well, then you still have two options. Do everything solo or get yourself a travel guide who's not a girlfriend. At least not yet. Travel guides are incredibly easy to find, and here's 4 different ways to do it. As soon as you get here, you'll be making friends with a lot of locals like trike or cab drivers. And if you mention that you're looking for a guide, you'll be amazed how many of them have a family member or a friend that are available to show you around. There are also travel agencies where you can hire a tour guide, but in my opinion, they tend to be more expensive that way. And even though you think they're more thoroughly screened and vetted, that's not necessarily the case. So here's my favorite method. Go on Facebook Messenger, which is something every Filipino uses, and look for a guide on there. Just type in the name of the city you're in and add the words tour guide. There's lots of people on there who are happy to show you around, both amateurs and professionals. And you can set up an appointment to meet them in person first, so you can check the chemistry and agree on the price. Obviously, most of you want a female guide, even if you're not trying to work the romance angle, just because it feels less threatening and more comfortable to travel around with a woman. But even if you're strictly business, let me mention this before moving on. A lot of Filipinos who advertise as tour guides are also looking for boyfriends. It's a great way for us to meet foreigners, and when you're hanging out together for a few days or a few weeks, sometimes feelings can develop, especially on the Filipinas end. So even if you don't have any romantic interest or didn't intend to be tied down right off the bat, she might see it like that. And chances are, she'll make it very difficult for you to meet anyone else. She'll never be more than a few feet away, giving the stink eye to any women that so much as glance in your direction. I was just talking to one of my patrons who hired a woman he met at a coffee shop as a tour guide, and things started out just fine. But about halfway through the trip, she suddenly professed her love for the guy and started getting real clingy. Don't feel sorry for the guy though, because they just got engaged. But whether you have a built-in girlfriend, a tour guide, or you're staying solo, it's time to put those boots on the ground. And the following stuff I'm about to tell you is true no matter who you're with. So once you start going to the malls and restaurants and beaches and bars and stuff, you'll be meeting a lot of local folk. And here's a tip that might save you some problems. I know you folks want to appear friendly and easygoing, but don't be too friendly with the tambay people, who are those guys just hanging out and not working, just milling around. They're not exactly bums, but their favorite activity is usually drinking, and you might feel like being generous by buying one a beer. Don't, because everyone within sight is gonna expect you to buy them a beer too. And good luck explaining why you're not treating the whole neighborhood to a keg party. Even if it's a relative of a friend, avoid picking up the tab because they'll expect you to do the same thing every time they see you. Same thing with tipping at a restaurant. If you tip at all, most locals don't, you shouldn't tip more than $1 or $2, maximum. That's already a huge tip here, and you really don't ever want to give the impression that you're loose with your money. Not because you'll get robbed, but because everyone will expect you to start paying for everything, and then they'll start asking to borrow money too. Many foreigners are amazed at the speed with which virtual strangers here will try to borrow money from you. And all I can say is, don't do it. The words borrow and loan mean gift. And not only will you never see that money again, but everyone in town will start hitting you up for cash, even though you just got there. It's always a much better idea to pretend you're flat broke and just barely getting by. The last thing you want to do is look like Mr. Moneybags. It might stroke your ego, but it'll cause all kind of problems down the road. Speaking of which, in my last video, I mentioned how you're gonna be charged higher prices than the locals pay, especially for items that don't have price tags on them, which is most things for sale by street vendors. Now, I'm not saying this is always gonna happen, and some of you guys don't even care when you get charged extra. But I have a strategy to avoid the skin tax, or what we call the kano price. The term kano comes from the term Americano, but we use it to mean any foreigners, and since we assume that all of you are rich, some vendors don't feel bad about padding their prices. An apple might cost me 50 cents, but if you try to buy it, it might suddenly become 75. Like I said before, a lot of you just don't care, but if you're here for more than a few weeks, it really starts to add up, and for some of you, it's also the principle of the thing. So what to do? Well, if you have a local companion with you, play hide the kano. You stay far away and out of sight while your companion does the shopping. But don't get spotted, or the Filipina you're with will also get charged the higher price. In fact, just stay back at the hotel. But what if you're alone? In that case, learning just 2 words can save you from the dreaded skin tax. When something doesn't have a price tag, just look at the vendor and say, magkano, which means, how much? And if you're given a suspicious amount, follow it up with, talaga, which means, really? This lets the vendor know you didn't just get here yesterday, even if you did. And they won't want to risk losing an entire sale to a seasoned veteran like you, who knows the lingo. You'll find that street vendors can be a great place to find fruits and vegetables, but I strongly recommend that you be really careful when eating food that's been cooked on the street. You'll see hundreds of locals enjoying all kinds of fried food, but there's a good chance that until your stomach adapts to the Philippines, eating street food will confine you to the bathroom for several days in a row. Don't say I didn't warn ya. Now, some of you guys have cast iron stomachs, but is it worth risking your entire vacation? Do you really feel lucky? Well, do ya? Punk? It's probably safer to eat at a brand name restaurant, where they actually change the cooking oil more than once a month. Probably. And your chances of an emergency trip to the bathroom are greatly reduced. But it's not only the food. Don't drink the water either. Unless you're in certain areas of Manila, you should avoid drinking the water at all cost. Most of us locals are immune to the bacteria, but I bet you're not. So always drink water from a bottle, not a glass, and never get ice in your drink. The nasty bacteria doesn't die when you freeze it, and just a little bit of melted ice in your drink can contaminate your whole system, and it multiplies fast. In less than a day or two, you and your toilet will be best buddies for the remainder of your trip. By the way, always carry toilet paper wherever you go, because you won't find any when you need to go. For those of you who haven't been here, it might come as a total surprise, but a lot of places don't even bother putting tissues in the bathroom because number 1, the tissue would just get stolen within a few seconds, and number 2, Filipinos don't use toilet paper, even when it is number 2. Now, some of you are still shocked by the fact that we managed not to use toilet paper. I have this one friend named Derek who keeps asking me to explain the Filipino way in gory detail. So maybe someday I'll make a video about it. Until then, Derek, you'll just have to use your imagination when it comes to what we do with our butts. But even if you do everything right with regard to food and water, there's actually a decent chance that you're gonna get sick anyway. Almost a third of the folks that visit the Philippines for the first time come down with a cold, the flu, or some kind of unknown bug. And if you think about it, it makes sense because your body's just not used to the germs here. If I were you, I'd carry around a little pack of antibacterial wipes. And every time I had contact with public transportation or public facilities, I'd wipe my hands and face. But if you manage not to get ripped off by a local vendor, puke your guts out by eating fried street food, or catch a Filipino flu, you'll start to notice that there's a lot of good deals on the street, like for instance, a haircut. You might be tempted to go to a salon at the mall, but most towns have quite a few barbers who do a really good job for only 60 pesos, which is just $1, and they're every bit as competent as their more expensive Western counterparts. If you need a dentist while you're here, you can get your teeth cleaned for only about 25 bucks, and to get a cavity filled is only 15. The prices are so cheap that a lot of folks delay getting expensive dental procedures until they get here, which actually helps pay for their vacation. But when it comes to shopping for most things, you're gonna wish you were back in the West. A lot of products you assume are universal just can't be found here, or they're called by a different name. So the best thing to do when looking for something in particular is to Google a picture of it and show it to the sales clerks so they can find you something comparable. Don't worry about the brand or model number, because you're only going to get something similar. And if you're lucky enough to find the exact product you're looking for, buy a lot of it, because stores often don't restock the same items. You can see your brand of deodorant one day and not see it again for 6 months. Unless you have someone back home that can ship things cheaply for you, you probably have to make do with what's available. Like many people have said, don't expect to bring the West with you. It's a different world here. So now we've got you comfortable with exploring around town, either on your own or with a travel companion. Depending on what city you're in, you've probably been getting around by a trike, which is a motorbike with a cab on the side that you flag down like a taxi. Or you've been riding a jeepney, which is like a city bus, both of which are good and cheap options. But what if you want to go on a day trip just outside the city, maybe to a nearby beach or a waterfall? Well, as long as you'll be coming back the same day, a trike is still going to be your best option. But what a lot of people don't know is that you can rent the trike and the driver on a daily basis. For about 20 to 30 bucks plus gas, you can get the driver to chauffeur you around wherever you want to go, which is really a good deal. The next time you're riding in a trike with a driver you like, just ask him what he'd charge to take you on excursions and make sure to get his number. Drivers love to do that because they don't have to go around looking for customers and you've already guaranteed a good day's pay. But what if you want to go to a different island or someplace relatively far away? Well, for trips like that, you've got two good choices: ferries and planes. Since the Philippines is an archipelago of over 7,000 islands, we offer ferry service between all the major ones, and even a lot of minor ones. Tickets are very cheap, and you don't have to reserve one in advance. They run the same route several times per day, so just show up at the dock and catch the next one. The other option is to take a plane. And if you're going more than 2 islands away, traveling by air is definitely the best choice. Instead of spending hours on a really slow ferry, you can literally be there in minutes by plane. You'll either be traveling on Cebu Pacific or on Philippine Airlines, but either one has really great prices, and you can fly domestically between the islands for under $100 bucks. As soon as the captain turns off the seatbelt sign, he has to turn it right back on again because it's time to land. So if you want to get to your next destination quickly, go by air. But what about renting a motorbike or maybe a car? Okay, I know a lot of you guys do it, but I wouldn't recommend it for new arrivals. If you've seen my video about what it's like to drive in the Philippines, then you already know why it's a bad idea. But if you just can't help yourself, let me give you a few words of advice. Before you drive away with your rental car, make sure you film every single inch of it, inside and out. If you don't, it'll be your word against the car owners when he says that every single scratch and dent is your fault and wasn't there when he handed you the keys. If you get into any kind of accident, even if someone purposely jumps in front of you, it's automatically gonna be your fault. Is that fair? Nope. But as a foreigner, you can pretty much count on it. And any witnesses that saw the accident are either gonna vanish or have a sudden bout of amnesia. And here's another tip for you. If you're in a vehicle that's involved in an accident, do not move it at all, even if it's blocking the traffic. Immediately take pictures of the accident scene, then call the police. But don't move your vehicle. If you do, they'll say they can't tell what happened, even if it's obvious. And if you're brave enough to rent a vehicle, I strongly urge you to invest in a dash cam. As a foreigner, the only way to get out of being blamed for an accident is to have actual footage of what happened. And I bet there are gonna be some comments that can back me up on that advice. Now, a lot of traveling around is gonna cost some extra cash. So what's the best way to get money? You sure don't want to carry around more than you need to, although I'd bring a decent bit to the Philippines when you come. Just be sure to bring fresh unfolded bills without any writing or markings on them, because the exchange services here are really picky about the freshness of the bills for some reason. But probably the easiest way to access cash for a short vacation is to use the ATM machines. They'll accept your credit cards, and some Western banks will even reimburse you for any fees. Unless you're planning to stay here a while, don't worry about opening a bank account here because it's not that easy to get one right away. Even a lot of foreigners who live here for years never even open a bank account, so you can leave that till later. Just carry around some cash for little purchases because most small businesses still don't take credit cards. Cash is always king in the Philippines. And I could literally go on for hours, but my overall advice is to go slowly. Enjoy the new sights and sounds, and take the time to meet the people who can help you. Pay a visit to the local barangay captain, who's the local police chief. Bring him a bottle of wine and introduce yourself. If you ever need help in an emergency, he's the guy you want to know. Expand your circle of friends and give a smile and a nod to everyone you meet. Even if you're not an experienced traveler and don't know the language or the customs, it's true what they say about us Filipinos. We're friendly and welcoming people. So just relax and adapt to the new flow. And if you need me, I'm just a question away. Well, that's it for this episode, and I hope you'll pay the Philippines a visit. It's not for everyone, but it could be for you. Till next time, folks. If you think about it, I'm like Bond, James Bond, delivering classified intelligence for your eyes only. With a license to kill misinformation and bad advice, it's my mission to get you the truth about the Philippines. All I ask for my Secret Service is that you give a thumbs up on this video, subscribe to my channel, and visit my Patreon page for extra content and exclusive features. And while you're waiting for your next debriefing, check out some of my other videos too. Well, that left me shaken, but not stirred.